What is the value, the true value of this domain name to your brand? What is the airtight logical case of truly understanding the value of a domain name for a brand, for a company, for brand equity? Hey, Chris Zuiker with Media Options. We help companies to acquire the raw, unfiltered version of the brand. Work on this, the best domain names, the planet. So check it out at MediaOptions.com. Check out ChrisZuiker.com. Do a daily podcast over there. I think I'm on like episode 440 now. I mean, it's crazy. Like a lot of episodes, a lot of value. A lot of insights into my negotiation. I mean, depend upon the kind of the timing of the podcast, I just get into different aspects of domain names. Like right now, I'm on an aspect of selling and the sales process, and hence this video. Like, what's the airtight logical case? And it's interesting because I have been in this business now for 5 years, and I came in from I was in the marketing. In business management, I ran accounts selling to Walmart, Target, and Sam's Club. And my biggest account was over $100 million. So business units had over 10 people calling on me at one point, or 10 people was in charge of at one point. And so I came into this industry just a different way, a different method. I came in really from the end user side because I wanted to understand, like, why is it that some founders will spend $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, $1 million, $30 million on their domain name, and yet others just struggle to come up with the value. This last week, I was in a conversation with them about their domain name, and they said, well, hey, we'll offer $25,000. Now, they had raised like $10, $20 million. It was a company that was like really has a very big roadmap and growth ahead of them, and they're on the .io domain. And this domain is also, there's like several different companies that this domain would be perfect for because of brand equity, okay? If you don't know how I view valuation, go back and look at another video where I talk about the 3 pillars of valuation. There's the first pillar is what's the raw equity, that's the search, the brand equity, and then the perceived equity. And so there was a lot of like brand equity, like these companies were building up, they were investing already in their brand. And yet for them, they said it was only worth $25,000. Now, here's the thing. I get it. I totally understand where they're coming from because, in essence, I kind of hit them up out of the blue. And there's just no good timing for domain names, okay? No good timing financially, no good timing to get in front of you because when the owner wants to sell and when you have offers on the table from other brands, other startups, maybe other competitors, like that's the timing that you have. And so at some point it's going to sell, and if it sells, it's either going to sell to you or it's going to be employed as an asset as your competitor or a different brand. And forever you'll have to pay that price. But that being said, I mean, so I understand that this is like, hey, it's worth $25,000, Chris. But you see what happened is that was the price he was willing to pay. That wasn't the value for this domain name. And so what happens is that if you follow my podcasts and my videos at all, I talk about this worldview. I got this from Garrett White, his Strategic Seduction series. But he talks about the worldview. Like the worldview you're coming into someone is typically it's different than the worldview that you have. Okay, the worldview that it takes to buy your product. So in this case, most people that you're reaching out to, let's say it's cold email, like their worldview right off the bat is, well, hey, I could part with $25,000. But the worldview isn't such that they're really looking at the true value for their brand. Big difference. Okay, what you're willing to pay and what this domain name is worth. Typically in the first conversation I've never had them be the same, because if they were the same by default, you say, hey, it's $200,000. They would like, lock it in. But that never happens, just the psychology of how we buy. And so I set out on this journey to figure out, okay, what's the logical case to why they need to own their brand? Now, okay, if you follow me, I have the 7 dimensions to a domain name. The 7 dimensions are global positioning, industry positioning. They are branding, marketing, SEO, email security, and the ability to scale. I think that's 7. If that's not 7, I'll go back. But that's it, right? This is the essence of your domain name, how you explain that. Okay, if it's a category-defined domain name, it's leadership, leverage, and scaling. Like you're tapping into leadership. You're saying to the world, to your industry, hey, we are the leaders, and by default, we're going to own the very keyword, the very essence that we talk about all the time because it's important to us. So why Johnson & Johnson, when they bought babies.com or baby.com, I have to go back and look here, but they said, hey, babies are important to us, and that's why we bought it. Does that make sense? So, what's the logical case? What's the logical case? There's 7 dimensions, okay? So I'm talking about the 7 dimensions and why that's the logical case, okay? So typically it comes down to 3 or 4, like main reasons to buy it, okay? It's global positioning. Now, the story that I like to tell is the story of Kraken.com, okay, and Kraken Rum. Now, Kraken Rum launched in 2013. I want to say it was before Kraken Crypto Exchange. And knowing this industry, they probably said, we're going to pass on it. Like, domain names aren't important to us, especially like back in 2013, right? It's like, well, hey, what is this? We don't need it. Kraken Rum is what we're going to have. They immediately launched their brand Kraken Rum, and they put $13,000 or $15,000 into marketing. Okay, it's the first year alone. Okay, that's 2013, so that's a while ago. And so every year they put more and more money into their marketing. Let's say they tampered that down. They still probably put $40 to $50 million in marketing, that brand, let's say, okay? I could be off, but let's just say it's even $15 million, okay? Let's just say they stopped marketing the first year, which we know they didn't. Well, guess what? When you go to Kraken today, Kraken.com was acquired by a crypto company. And that crypto company now dominates the global positioning. If you type in Kraken, you will see Kraken Crypto. And it's interesting that, when you talk to young people today and I survey them, I say, well, hey, have you even, actually, I bring this up a lot. I say, well, have you even heard of Kraken Rum? They're like, no, I've only heard of Kraken Crypto Exchange. That's global positioning. Now, let me ask you this. If they could go back, let's say they spent $30 million in marketing. If they could go back and they could buy that domain name for $200,000 today, would that be a good investment? Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. They gave up their global positioning for short-sightedness of saying, hey, we're Kraken Rum. Now, here's where the beauty is, okay, and the pain is that in this instance, they will, there was no compounding effect to that marketing. It was like, it was in, it was out. Now, I'm not saying they didn't make a return on it, okay, and that's direct response marketing. Let's say they put 15 in and they got $35 million out. Okay, let's say it's $35 million profit, okay? Now, or let's 30 million, keep it simple numbers. Okay, so yeah, they made $15 million. That was it. Okay, that's direct response marketing. You put them in, you get a little bit out, but you have to keep doing that. And at some point, that impacts your ability to scale. And so when they first started out, yeah, I'm sure that they owned it. It was like, hey, we're Kraken. It was great. It was awesome. But then comes along Kraken Crypto Exchange. Now they put $1 in, and what do they get back? Maybe they get back 90 cents. Maybe they get back $1.05. I don't know. But there's an impact to their brand because if you go to search, they're like non-existent. They don't even exist. They're like one entry, and you see Kraken Crypto Exchange. Okay, that's global positioning. Listen, I got to keep this short because my battery's about to die on my camera, and so if it does die, listen, I'm just dropping it. That's it. I'm done. Okay, so you're warned in advance. That's the airtight logical case. Now, okay, you take that to the next step here. Okay, so that's global positioning. That's positioning. It's industry positioning. How do you rank to your peers? Well, if you're Get Quilt, and all your peers are this simple name. Okay, that's why Dave acquired Dave.com. I'm not sure what the price tag was, but he said, listen, it wasn't $1 million, it wasn't 50,000, right? It was somewhere in between there, okay? Who knows where it was at? I'm sure it was quite a bit of money, but he said, listen, we needed to create a brand that was effortless, that created trust, that created loyalty. We need our employees to feel good about our branding. Okay, that's the power of branding. I talk about how on Carrot, listen, link to them, show them some love. It's a cool company. Love the company. Awesome. Really love it. Love to get him on a podcast at some point. What they found is 50% of their customers went to this trade show, said, hey, I love On Carrot. And they're like, no, we're Carrot. That's just our domain name. Okay, and that's the issue today is that your brand is your domain name today. It's by default because that's how customers remember you. Now, what happens is that if another brand comes along and you see 2 brands in your feed with the same brand, okay, let's say it's Quilt and it's Get Quilt, well, by default, they have to think about your brand in a negative. No, it's not Quilt, it's Get Quilt. But who is this Quilt? Like, listen, I've got a relationship with Get Quilt, but who's Quilt? And natural curiosity leads them over there. And so forever, what's happening is that you're having this halo effect. If you're Get Quilt, you're forever depositing into Quilt.com. Okay, that's branding, the impact of branding. And then finally, the impact of scaling. I just kind of talked about that. Okay, this is the logical case. Logical case on your brand. But here's the thing. It's a number. It's a number. No VC, CMO, board of directors, no founder, no hustler who put $600,000 on a domain name like Carrot.com. They didn't buy that because there was no value to them. They didn't buy that because there was no return on investment. They didn't buy that because there wasn't an equation that they used in their numbers. They didn't just spend $300,000 because they had $300,000 lying around. They did it because it made sense, because there was a logical case to it. Now you look at traffic, for instance, okay? So when you look at the traffic side of the equation, you look at Hive.com. Hive.com lost, or they had a 40% increase in their traffic overnight by going to Hive.com from HiveTeams.com. Now listen, there's 12 or 14 companies that have raised $1 million today, over $1 million, that have Hive in their name, and they'll never own Hive.com. Okay. Now, did that traffic come from them? I don't know. Did it come from just adding simplicity? I don't know. It's probably a factor of both. But I can tell you this, it's only going to grow as those companies invest in Hive for their brand. Hive Teams owns the simplicity, the raw essence. And so what's that 40% of traffic worth? 4% increase overnight. Like this, I mean, who knows what it is today, okay? I mean, Teamwork.com is a great example. They were teamworkpm.net, okay? The absolute worst domain. They bought it for $650,000, and immediately they saw this hockey stick-like growth. Like overnight. So, traffic. Okay, O.co, when they rebranded, when they were rebranded, Overstock.com rebranded O.co, they had a 60% drop in their traffic. Here's the thing. I don't know what the number is for you. I truly don't. You have to decide that. You have to decide how much confusion you have, how much competition there is. But here's what I know. There's a number. There's a number to your business. And that's my objective, is to get you to see that number, like to see the return on investment to your business. Okay? It impacts your marketing spend. Okay, so there's branding, there's as far as traffic, there's marketing spend. Okay, these are all intertwined with brand, with positioning, branding, and scaling. I had one company call me up once. It was an eyeglass company, and he's like, "Hey, Chris, I'm getting 25,000 unique visitors a day. Like, we couldn't figure out why. Like, all of a sudden, we started to see this massive uptick in our traffic, and we didn't even know why." And so we started researching it. What we found is that one of our competitors launched a TV commercial and launched this major marketing blitz, and their domain name was like super similar to a marketing camp domain name we bought years ago. And they're sending traffic to us because of this confusion, because customers they can't remember it. He goes, worse than that, like we're getting like calls for their customer service saying, "Hey, I want to cancel my order. Where's my order?" And we're having to tell them, like, "Listen, you didn't order with us. You ordered with someone else. Like, this is a different company." And he goes, "What do we do? Do we sell it to them?" I'm like, "No. I mean, what are you going to do? Go to them and say, 'Hey, we got this domain name that's kind of similar to, to yours, and you really screwed up, and we think you should buy it.'" I was like, "Listen, like that was their folly. That was their stupid decision. Like, enjoy the traffic, convert the traffic, use their lack of clarity, their lack of simplicity, their lack of creating an effortless path for their brand, for their customers. Use it to your advantage." Okay, we have another domain name I'm not going to share in this video. I typically do share it when I'm talking one-on-one, but this domain name gets 70,000 unique visitors a week. I'm sorry, a day. 70,000 a day, unique visitors. Okay, it's a major app that's out there, and it was an app that just took off. Great, pretty cool app it looks like. I don't know how long it's going to live out there, but what I know is that it's one of these app companies that says, "Oh, we're an app, we don't need a domain name. We're just going to we're going to put all of our life, we're going to put everything onto Google, onto Apple, and we're just going to trust them." Yeah, we're going to trust them because they never change their algorithms, right? They never change things. And I think Google right now has a major change where they're getting rid of, I think it's all going to be web-based apps or something like that. I mean, major change. Really? So you're an app company that doesn't own simplicity and clarity. Wow. It's one of the reasons why Dave.com bought Dave.com, because they said, "Hey, there has to be this effortless path for our customers." They see, we're Dave. We're Dave.com over here. We're Dave on the App Store. And so we're creating this trust, okay? So that impacts your marketing spend, impacts your branding. Okay, I already talked about Carrot.com and on Carrot and 50%. So what's the impact? Okay, what's the number? What am I getting at here, guys? What I'm getting at is that there's a number. There's a logical case. There's a number that it makes sense. And that's really my point, is that I want you to figure out what your number is. It's interesting. When Ring.com, when they bought, Jamie, once again, another great story. Truly appreciative for Jamie for sharing his story. They shared it on Domain Sherpa. I'm actually doing some cut down videos with all those interviews. It's going to be really cool when I'm done. But when he shared his story, what he said is that he said, when we bought this, he bought it for $1 million, and his investors were like freaking out. Like, Jamie, how could you do that? Like, I'm not sure this was a smart decision. He said, well, hold on a second. Because if we just look at, if it just had a 1% impact on our business, it'd be worth it. 1% impact on our business. It would be a payback over 5 years. He said, if we can get a payback over 5 years, it'd be worth it. When he said, well, why didn't you just, they were like, get Doorbot, why didn't you just rebrand to Doorbot.com? He said, listen, like that's going from crappy, from like terribly crappy to just okay crappy. He goes, no, if we're going to rebrand, we're going to make a monumentous shift, and we're going to get the absolute best brand we can possibly buy. Like there will be it'll be like completely, massively incremental. That's why I bought Ring.com. Now, his investors were kind of freaking out, and keep in mind at this point, they were having massive growth. They just came off of Shark Tank. They were having great growth, as the story goes, as he's saying it. And so it wasn't like, he could have said, well, hey, we're already growing leaps and bounds. We really don't need it. We can just stick with this. But he said, no, like I'm building a company that's going to dominate. I'm building a company that I'm creating, really a world-class elite brand. And so, what he kind of challenged, like, well, what's the number that it's going to take? Right? There has to be some kind of increase. And so as when he's talking to his board of directors, like, well, listen, there has to be some kind of impact owning the raw version of your brand. When you look at all these numbers out there, you look at like the Hive, look at the O.co, you look at the teamwork.coms of the world, you look at those, like there's going to be an impact to my business. And so even if we use the most conservative numbers, this makes sense to our brand equity. It makes sense to our conversion. It makes sense to the trust, to the loyalty, everything that we bring to our brand. Now, they paid it off even faster than that because they just had such monumental growth. He ended up selling his company for $1 billion to Amazon. Listen, don't think for an instant Amazon could not have just called up their suppliers and said, hey, knock me off every single product that Ring has. I want it on my door tomorrow, next week. And they couldn't have sold it, right? They couldn't have had every single product knocked off. They could have created their own brand, but instead they bought Ring.com. Now, he equated the domain name alone to be worth like $40 to $45 million. That's just domain name alone. That's not the impact it had to brand equity, because brand equity was in that equation. You get it? You see the logical case here to owning your brand? There's logic behind it. There's a conversation that is had at every single startup, at every single company that rebrands, that buys and invests in the strategic asset, the raw version of their brand. So the question is, what's the true value to you? Not what you want to pay for it, not what a great deal would be. What's the true value to you? In this case, for Jamie, he's building $1 billion brand. Now it was worth $40 million to him. Would he have paid $40 million? In hindsight, if he knew he was going to sell his brand, his company for $1 billion to Amazon, would he have paid $40 million? I don't know. Probably not. It takes a lot of belief. It takes a lot of belief in what you're building. It takes conviction. It takes passion. That takes this commitment that says, I'm going to build this company that's $1 billion. Okay, listen, I'm going super long here, 20 minutes, longest video ever. I'm going to drop it there. I hope you found some value from this. Check back in tomorrow. I'm going to continue on this thought of what's this logical case, because I have a lot more. I did like 3 pages of notes here the other day, and just got to blur that out here. So check it out, and subscribe and share this up if you found any value in it. You just got done listening to another episode of .com Strategies. Check us out online at chriszuiker.com and at mediaoptions.com.